again, how will it ever get there when it gets to 10 or 20,000 of them, not only a few thousand?
Well, potentially it won't get that high anyway, because that's just money. That's like free money in the bank. That's what people need to wrap their heads around with what's sitting there with all those not being started yet. And I get why, because people want to spend the time bidding, because there's a lot of timers going to zero all of a sudden because of how they all got started. Um, so, I mean, it does feel like a communal thing to go in there and start those things anyway. But I've had times when I go there and I know that there's not a whole bunch of people that are trying to index to get them started, and had them almost instantaneously index the lists and get started, right?
That's my point of a bot, where it's the human part, where you're only going to try so many times, or you only have so many hours in a day. If you have a bot that is set up and that just repetitively does it over and over and over on a timer, I mean, chances are in 24 hours, you're going to hit a bunch of time periods where there's not a bunch of people in there, where you have people trying to do it. It's not nearly as efficient or as repetitive or repeatable. But I know what you're saying, where obviously we reach out to the community, have people come in and do it. It's a lot more fun doing it that way. But depending how many of these things keep building up, because more of them are put in there every day, and if the ratio of what is being started to what's putting in there is not going the right direction, these things, the indexing list could get pretty big, man.
It sure could.
Seems like an exponential thing, where the bigger it gets and the longer it takes, the more discouraged people will be, because time is money, and the longer you're sitting there putting time into it, it'll discourage people from doing it.
Well, I mean, you got 24 hours for the ones that you're starting to have a competitive view on it as individual auctions in the first place.
But if it's getting to the point where you can only start one every so often because of how long it takes to index, then
It's
there's a
only
lot more eyes on every single one of them that comes up, because there's a lot more time in between them when they get spread out. So it could be where it's a lot more competition compared to
right.
having more at once.
I just hit one just to go see about how long it takes to do one. It took about 30 seconds.
What was the gas cost right now? Because I'll get on there and
$3.
start I'm gonna start plugging some.
It was just $3. Well, just $3. Yesterday it was $1. Today is $3. Right now at 9 o'clock in the morning, though.
It's just great. There's so many games and so much different strategies and so much stuff that get put into this, where it's fun just thinking about it.
Strike while the iron's hot. People are going to be like, why is there no yield? And be like, you fuckers aren't in there actually participating like you said you were. Suckers. Get in there. This one's taking a while.
Executioner, hello, good morning to you. Quick question. I thought I read yesterday that it looked like almost half, or maybe a little less than half of the auction HSIs that were purchased back into went back in. They sold them.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, that's correct.
That's amazing. What does it
Yeah.
look like for today so far? We've seen the same action?
No, I mean, there's, we were actually just discussing this. We're getting to a point where you're getting down to the last couple pages, the last couple hundred of them. And I mean, it spans within the time to from now to 24 hours later, but there's only a couple hundred of them within that span, and people are already starting to get a little FOMO-ish and a little bit nervous and a little bit not sure about what to do, because there's like, I think people see 5,000 some odd like that, and they think that there's 5,000 some odd that they can just go start right now, but that's not true. So I don't know, maybe there's got to be a little bit more of a educational lesson on the understanding of what those numbers are that they're looking at. I believe that there's about a backlog of about 1,500 of them, which is still, I mean, it's not 5,725, but 1,500 right now. And then tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but today at 000 UTC, I believe there's like another 300 that's getting dumped on top of that. So if we don't get to processing these things and getting these auctions started, then it's going to go from 1,400 to 1,700, and then the next day I think there's another 100, and then the next day there's another like 150, and then the next day I think that there's like maybe 50 or 60, and then the next day there's like 200. So I mean, this could probably get to where you're going from 1,400 that need to be started to about 2,000 and some odd that needs to be started. Let me go see what the, yeah. But I guess either way, you still have to index the whole list when you do start an auction, regardless of how many are actually available to start. So
I also wanted to mention that I do read all the communication that goes on in the Icosa space. And someone, who was it? Hex, uh, I'm not sure who it is, but they released the information on how to get some information on, um, the Icosa and Hedron and Watsa yields. And hexmodel.com, I had not seen that before. I thought that was really well done. I mean, it's still in its infancy, but it really does reveal a lot of information if anyone else wants to look at that. Hexmodel.com. I don't know
I don't know
who
who
put it together. I like
together.
it.
Dev Huey is his name. It's Dev Huey is the one that created that. And yeah, I use his data to be able to pull a lot of information, like the ceiling prices and how much has been burned and how much was minted for that day, so you can see the difference of the two. Obviously, the last 2 days, a hell of a lot more has been burned than minted in like the last couple weeks, even. So that's pretty neat to be able to see. Yeah, and it has all the staking data on there too. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yes, it does.
Hey, Executioner, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of anybody having problems getting USDC transferred out of Coinbase?
So USDC, not USD, right?
No, I made a purchase, just bought some USDC and went to send it out, and it shows the amount in my wallet. When I go to send it though, the available amount it shows is nothing. But like if I go to swap it to a different token or cash it to USD, like if I want to cash out, it shows the full amount that I have. But if I try to just send it out, to my hardware wallet, it's showing I have 0 available to send, which like anytime that I've ever gone like above a limit or anything, it'll tell you, you know, you're going to have so many days before you're available to send it out or before this funds is available. But it let me make the deposit fine, but then now just trying to send it out, it's saying it's just showing 0, like I don't have an available balance.
Okay, so it when you do go try to send it to an external wallet is when it's telling you that you have 0 balance for your USDC.
Yeah, it's showing my available balance is 28 cents when it's a lot more than that. But
Have,
like
have you
if I try to swap it from USDC to ETH, it shows my full balance on there and it'll let me swap it. But if I'm just trying to send it out with USDC, it won't let me send it out of Coinbase.
What about trying to swap it to ETH and then sending it out of the wallet to your external wallet as ETH instead? Will it register then?
I'm gonna try doing that right now just with a smaller amount. But yeah, it's just weird. I've never encountered this before where, you
I
know, and
have
the only time I only
I
have though when I'm making the initial deposit from my bank account, it'll say you're available to transfer this much out immediately and you have to wait 15 days on the rest or however many days on the rest of it. But right now it didn't say any of that when I put anything in, and it's not giving me any a message when I'm trying to send it out. It just shows no available balance on the USDC trying to send it out, but going to swap it, it lets me swap.
see you're not the first person that I've heard say this. So I never
I saw
had the so
KG and somebody else said the same thing the other day, which I've never had a problem with it, but this is the first time I've ever had anything like this happen.
hmm. Hmm.
It'll let me, like, if I want to transfer it back to USD, like I want to cash it out, it still will let me do that, and it'll let me, if I want to send it back towards my bank account, it will let me do that, and it shows the full amount. But trying to just send it out to a different wallet, it shows 0 balance when I try to do that and says insufficient funds. I'm gonna try transferring part of it to ETH and just sending the ETH out. And if it lets me do that, then I'll just send the ETH out and swap it through ETH. But it's just I've kind of weird. I've never had a problem like this.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on because, like, I just went through the process, and even though it's not newly onboarded into the platform, uh, it doesn't seem to stop me to be able to move it wherever the hell I want. So, what have you guys been doing to be having your permissions revoked? Hmm?
Depositing a lot of USDC and then switching it to Icosa and staking it.
They don't. They want you to stop. It'd be funny if, like, you know how, like, before it was like the banks were stopping transactions from happening because they're crypto transactions to the centralized bank, to the centralized exchanges, so you could just move them to your DeFi wallets. And then now it'll turn to where the banks are the ones that have the availability for you to, like, go to Wells Fargo or whatever and, like, manage your cryptocurrency just through a bank like they do in the UK. And then it'll be the centralized exchange that are the ones that are halting transactions back and forth at their will at different users for different currencies whenever they want. Huh.
So you want to sell me some USDC?
Well, that's just so. What happened when you transmogrified, swap rooted the shit into Ethereum?
I'm charging my other phone. It died when I was going to do the transaction, so
Oh,
I'm charging it for a minute.
oh, bullshit. So, does it allow you to put? Can you even get to where you can put your DeFi address into the?
Yeah, it lets me put my address in. I click on the address,
Mhm.
and then it says that I don't have. It just shows the available amount. I hit max, and it's showing 28 cents.
I mean, okay. Let me see here. I think that there might be a
And
thing where
I
it
tried
puts.
logging in on my laptop on my regular account that way. I tried on the mobile, and it shows the same balance, same thing both ways. Where
And is this newly onboarded USDC onto the like you just
yeah, yeah,
got
I
your
just
like
put in. I put in, then yeah, tried to send it out, and that's what happened. But this was uh,
how long ago?
I don't know, 36 hours ago.
Okay. How did you do it? Was it a wire transfer from a debit card or like trans?
No, I just have my bank account connected to Coinbase, so it's not the $25,000 wire transfer, and it's not the ACH. It's the one in between them.
Okay, so it doesn't have the 6 day hold on it.
Oh, normally I have zero hold.
Yeah.
It's like a $15,000 limit normally, and but yeah, I've just never had a problem with it ever. And I can do it multiple times, in a few day span or whatever. I've never had a problem, but yeah, just weird that. And it wasn't even. It's a smaller amount than I normally do also, which is kind of what is frustrating.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. If I was you and in there it tells you that you have a certain amount of USDC and it'll let you swap it to something else, then I would at
Yeah,
least try that. It's only like
I'm
a
gonna
dollar.
swap it. I'm gonna swap it to ETH right now and try sending it out, see what it does. But
And then here's another thought process. I mean, I don't know if other people do these types of things, but um, changenow.io, how they give you, an address to send to, and then they'll send it to the address that you give at the end result. I've noticed that for like that's a good way to I don't know. It's not really like tornado caching, but it's a good way to move stuff around, especially when
uh,
you're getting
I I love Change Now. That's one of my favorite. It especially like when I first found out about Hex, that's how I bought it until I figured out Uniswap.
yeah.
I would just buy XLM, send it over
Expensive.
there.
If you want to, because the hex trading presented an opportunity where you realized that you wanted a little bit more anonymity for your moves, so that way they didn't like try to gain an advantage as to where you're moving to. So sometimes you just have to make money disappear and reappear elsewhere, and then hide it in a Gnosis safe, and then inside the Gnosis safe
It
you can
I
do the majority of stuff you need to do in crypto.
I noticed like when I was first starting to buy Hex, it was gas fees were not cheap, man. Like swaps were 30 something to 60 something dollars each. And the gas was crazy. So just sending Stellar to Change Now because of the gas fees that I would save, it was actually, even though it's a shitty rate that you're getting because of the gas fee saving, it was actually a better deal.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember that when that exchange went and got a bunch of hex and was selling hex on a different network, and then they got hacked and all that shit got dumped? That was good times too.
It's amazing how many of those hacks and dumps and how much different stuff happens with this community, and it just gets absorbed like a sponge and disappears. Because we don't have a bunch of counterparty risk and we're not on a bunch of centralized exchanges, so there's not, it's limited to the amount of a single user getting hacked at a time and not millions of them.
Well, if most people are getting hurt over there and we're not over there, then our availability to risk is pretty much the scammers, because the scammers aren't like embedded in their singularity into the community like it is in DeFi through like Telegram and Twitter and trying to get people to get their seed phrases away, because they know that it's easier to get individuals to give their seed phrases away, obviously, than it is for the centralized exchange. But the funny part is yeah, there might be like these random occurrences of scammers trying to get over on you and trick you into giving up your seed phrases out here, which may sound scary and horrifying. But when you go into a centralized exchange, you are giving your money over to a scammer, guaranteed, 100%.
That's what's got me. Normally, my routine, I deposit to Coinbase, and within the same 2-minute span, I send it out to my account with a hardware wallet. I don't leave it on there for more than 2 minutes at a time, and that's what's got me where I was just trying to be patient and be cool with it. But no, and that's the thing with Coinbase. It's like you don't want to ask anything about your account or alert anything or anything else, because they'll just flag your account and shut it down.
Yeah.
So it's like I'd rather just be patient and wait, or if not, I'll send it back to my bank account or whatever. But I don't want to send it back to my bank account. I want to buy stuff in our ecosystem with it.
Well, like, see, my first occurrence is, there's other ways to onboard yourself in. Now, obviously, KYCing yourself across the board doesn't seem like the best case scenario, but giving yourself options with something that, crypto.com.
In the US, besides Coinbase or crypto.com, what would you recommend?
Well, I mean, I would have recommended crypto.com. Right after the whole FTX thing, they came out with their records to prove that they didn't fuck around with any customers' funds. That's for sure.
I just don't like how many of their signs and how much of their crap I see everywhere, man. It's, you watch an F1 race or you go downtown LA or anywhere. I mean, I don't like how big they are.
Yeah, well, like, okay. What I like about them is you could use them as a centralized hub to transfer money to any network that they have available to them, which is it's not every network, but they have a lot of networks in their tendrils to be able to get money in and out. Like, I can move money through crypto.com from Polygon to Ethereum without like taking my trust elsewhere into other things that I'm just not trusting. I'm not going to trust as much. I already, had to KYC through this other thing that I can trust. So if I can use that when I know that other front ends are doing silly shit, then I certainly can. But I do the same thing with that thing, just like every other one. I only have it on there for as long as it takes for it to establish the written documentation that it has deposit. And then I move it right off of it in a send over to a DeFi wallet, just like anything else. But issues at all.
What's our turnaround time on crypto.com when you KYC?
What do you mean by turnaround time? Like when you actually
how long does it take? Is it a week-long process or a day-long process?
It only took me as long as to do the process to be able to move around and do stuff. That was it, for me at least.
No, I'll just at least go through the process just to open up another avenue because I don't I don't like the feeling when that's why I love DeFi and why I love it. It was instantly I could see it was better because that feeling of somebody is able to tell you no and you can't send it when you want to. I don't like that. If I want to send it to another wallet that's my own wallet, I don't want anybody to tell me no.
Well, I noticed that like on Coinbase, when you first started your Coinbase account, you had to like build credit with them by using them more. So your first initial amount would only be like a couple $1,000s, like 5 grand or some shit. And then after moving around 5 grand, it would go up to like, now you can move around 10 grand at once if you wanted to, or 15 or 25 or 50. And it just slowly kind of moves up. And you notice that they're allowing you this movement as you move in. Cause I mean, I'd hate to be stuck at, you can only move in $300 a day. Be like, excuse me, motherfuckers. Like, no, you're going to make this at
No,
least
no,
$3,000 a day right
I
now. Right.
I know
And that's,
exactly what you're saying. Where it takes a while too. Where at first it was like, and it's not like I have that much money to put in, but it was like, even making a normal paycheck, it was like you're pretty limited, and you had to wait so many days between each one, or if not, if you put more in between there, then you're waiting like over 2 weeks for it to go through. Where, yeah,
yep.
I know what you're talking about.
When I went to crypto.com, I noticed I didn't have that battle at least. They were like, you want to move 30 grand? Sure, go for it. Unlimited amounts? We got you covered.
Once you're
So,
KYC'd, I don't see what I mean. It's not like you're a terrorist threat or there's no other problem with it. Where it's like if you have the money and want to put it in, I don't see what the holdup is.
I don't know. I mean, it works just fine for me. I haven't had any issues uh, with anything, but it might just be fortunate timing for me that I didn't need to be moving money around when issues were there. So I just didn't pay it. I didn't, was none the wiser, right? Or some shit. So I don't know. Like right now, I did hear some things about Coinbase. And like if I, thought to myself, what would I do if that was the case? Then I would just use a different front end where my banking information is already available for me to move quickly if need be. And for some people, I mean, I don't know, they'd probably be thinking that they would do that to move out, but you and I are explicitly talking about we need more onboard positions to get in further, faster, right?
I I haven't taken much out, man.
Me
A
too.
few times I've pulled a little bit out, but not very often. It's been a one-way street so far, just because I've got a longer time horizon and I'm not trying to do this for short term anything. I want it to be life changing. So yeah, it's been just putting it in for a while.
Yeah, I'm not in this for a good time, I'm in it for a long time, or
Yes,
whatever,
sir.
whatever the saying is.
I'm just I I'm just glad I really enjoy your voice because yeah, it makes it a lot more pleasant when you enjoy the people you're around the whole time because we're gonna be with each other for a long time from what things look like.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can guarantee that I'm going to be here for at least another 12, at least. And, if I'm a public speaker and do, educating in the community, then hopefully in the end result, I wouldn't, we'd have me less public speaking in the future and more other people, you know, progressing and pushing that out as well. I mean, I've done my fair share of onboarding lots of people. And, as we get more people and get them excited for the reality of how things really work, then we got to figure out better ways to dumb it down for the masses and just shoot for the stars, right?
Well,
The
you
other
set the
things.
bar at a great level, man. That the expectations and the standards that this community is kind of held to and we hold each other to, it's not like anything you find anywhere else. So no, it's the leaders we have in the community, it makes a big difference where the stuff Alex is building and just his demeanor and his way he goes about things and the way you and, you know, a lot of other people in this community are, it's special, man. It's not like anything else or anywhere else where, you know, any other Telegram group or anything else I'm a part of. It's not, you know, not the same level of, you know, care and anything else where people actually care for each other here, and it's nice.
I'd have to agree. It is nice.
Everybody's got each other's back for the better of the community, where it's like if you have some tidbit of information that might give you an edge or something else, it's like everybody shares it with each other. And it's just how really it is open source, and everybody is committed to this as a community and a project. It's amazing, and it's great to see, because, you know, when you get that closed source mindset and it's, you know, this stuff's locked up and you got to pay to get to it, or you got to do this, that, and the other, jump through whatever hoop. It's like, no, here it's free. All you got to do is put in the time and be willing to learn.
Yep. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And then don't lose that mindset. Like every day, obviously it's okay to like relax, right? But in some sort of way, be on a path to learn something new at least every day, or be open-minded enough to learn something new every day. Because as soon as you don't, let's say that you take one day off a week and you only do 6 out of 7 days of trying to educate yourself on something, then you're falling behind from every single individual that decided that one day taking off from educating themselves was too many days in their lives, and they wanted to lead. They wanted to be the lead of the age.
That's 100% right, man. And that's, you know, everybody who puts in the time and puts in the effort here, it's readily available. But if you don't put the time and effort in, I mean, I know anytime I take days or, you know, any amount of time off, I come back and I'm like, what the hell happened? Because you got to do a lot of catching up.
Yeah.
It shows how on the forefront and how cutting edge everything is that we're dealing with, and how liquid it is and moving and flowing all the time, where, you know,
Yes.
what you're thinking today is probably going to change by tomorrow.
That's exactly right.
It's fun, and you got to stay on your toes, which that's what intrigues me and what keeps me interested with it, where it's kind of always changing and you got to think about it, which I like it.
Information technology type level stuff is forever changing and will always be evolving. And so therefore, if you're involved with it, then your education in that space is going to be forever evolving. And as soon as you stop, you're left behind. You are totally left behind. And the people that didn't stop are going to know that you're left behind. It'll be very obvious that you're not keeping up with the rest of the pack, because you'll say stupid shit that isn't relevant, and it might have been relevant like a week or two ago, right? And, and then the people who are involved that are paying attention are like, why are you not paying attention? Like, you should know these things. And you're like, yeah, I know, but I just haven't, I really haven't been paying attention for the last few weeks, right? Like, some of the sacrifices that went on. I know guys that were disappointed because they were like, oh, I was on vacation for like a month. I just leave for a month, and like all these things happen, and I come back, and then now it's already over, and you're just kind of like, well, fuck around and find out, man. You went and fucked around on their holiday, and then you found out later when you got back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a quick question. If y'all can hear me, okay? I don't mean to cut anybody off, but
No, go ahead.
according to what you guys are talking about, I mean that's pretty much me, dude. I haven't been paying attention or whatnot for like, oh man, it's been months, and so I'm just now kind of coming back. And I went to the Hex or the Pulse Chain chat, and nobody's in there. Like, is this the main chat that everybody's in now, or what's going on? I just now found out about Acosta. I just now found out about Acosta. And I'm just
You're
looking
finding
back
out,
into it.
you're finding probably about the best time in history, man. This is, if you
Really?
look at what the yields that we got paid out yesterday, And my face got melted off when I looked at my wallet yesterday, man. I've never seen nothing like it.
Damn, dude. Hex was the same way. I
Cosplay's
got
a
into Hex
disgrace,
at a good
CNN
time.
and banker.
Where like, is this the main, like the Pulse chain and Hex and everybody just kind of merged into here? Or is there another popular?
Well, see, you might think that, because like in the Hex ecosystem, when it comes to Hedron, like Hedron is the derivative of Hex. So a lot of hexagons ended up having a lot of Hedron. So with the development of the new technology of all the things that Hedron presents, a lot of the, I guess, higher functioning hexagons that had available decisions to make and all these options to make were quite inquisitive and interested on what Hedron was and stuff like this. A lot of them weren't, and they just dumped. But in having like some of the OGs and some of the other critical thinkers kind of piling into Hedron at that time, and then seeing what has happened in the last like almost year, right, with Hedron, and then Icosa kind of coming up, I laugh when you ask that question, because it almost seems pretty valid of a question to say, because it's almost kind of true, I guess, in a way. Only in the representation of activity, because there's just so many people here. But like these auctions are going off right now, and to see like 30 some odd people in the chat literally all night long is potentially because those auctions are going on all night long right now, Joel. And
he's not lying. I went to work 10 hours ago. I worked a full shift, came home, hanging out, eating some food, drinking a beer, and the people are still on here going at it.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Chris.
So, do we have any idea what the tally is today on 263 amount of Hedron burned on auctions?
For the day that hasn't finished yet?
Correct.
Maybe. That's a good question. Does somebody have the tally of how much has been burned since last 00 UTC till now?
Not enough.
Yeah, I'm curious about this too. Hex model was doing a good job, but it doesn't seem to be refreshing. It's just stuck at 500 million, which we're well over.
205 billion Hedron was burned.
Man, I hadn't even gone through all my wallets yet, because after the payout yesterday, I had to pack up all my stuff, leave, and get to work, because I missed a couple of days of work bidding on the auctions. So once I got all my stuff packed up, and like looking at some of these stakes, man, it's like with a 1 day, I just did the stake for 1 day with like a little bit over like 1,200 Icosa, paid out 403 Icosa in 1 day. So that's a quarter or a third of the yield in 1 day. That's crazy, man.
Guys, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. Like I said, I'm just now coming back. I mean, from what I understand also about this stuff, when I try to explain it to people, you have to fully understand hex before you can, when somebody fully has a understanding of what hex is, then you can explain to them something else like Hedron. Uh, you have to understand Hedron, from what I understand, to uh, get Icosa. From what I understand, am I Icosa is a derivative, like a derivative of Hedron. It works
I,
with it. Like so, if Hedron as Hedron goes up, the value of Icosa is going to go up. I don't know anything about it. I'm just now. I just stumbled in here.
well, I mean, Icosa is a derivative of Hedron in the fact that when Hedron is burned, it mints up more Icosa to the stakers of the Icosa protocol. However, the price of Icosa, since you have this buyback function that has like these incentives for making them 5555s, plus the borrowable amount on a 5555 is the highest amount that you can get. And when you use the buyback function, it uses the borrowable amount divided by the share rate for that day. And then it spits you out Icosa for the HSI when you turn it into that buyback function. So because that it's like the value of 1/3 of the T share in HSI form, then the amount of Icosa that spits out gives you a ceiling price of about $1 and what is it? It says it on the thing. Anyway, it gives you a relative understanding of the ceiling price at the time, so you can use that as an arbitrage opportunity if you wanted to actually make money and sell it down. But it seems like people are using the buyback function right now to get a higher staking position. Even though that these derivatives work this way off of each other in a full cycle loop back to hex, it doesn't have to be so complicated to understand all of that stuff right away. It could be a lot more simple when you explain it to people and be like, it's a staking protocol with yield that is well over 100%, well over 100% so far. And there's sites to show like data, I guess, if you wanted to show people that you were onboarding. This now would be especially good with the burning that's going on the yields that's going to the pools for the people that are participating in just the staking alone. And then, you can expand them into further parts into the ecosystem, into Hex and Hedron and the rest of that. So it doesn't have to be so complicated, but like if you spend 2.5, 3 weeks trying to smash it all into your head with the game theory and all this stuff and wrap your head around it, then in my opinion, you have effectively put yourself in a position to rape yourself for 2 to 3 weeks worth of yield that you could have got in the protocol that is paying out asinine amounts of yield right now while these processes are happening. But hell, now we need like a kickstart to get people to go in there and actually just start the auctions, right? Just go start them. But we don't have that right now. We need more people. So
I like your idea of just internal community outreach where in some of our smaller groups or in just maybe even in just our main chats only, but getting some people together and wanting to put them together to at a similar time or a day get together and just start a bunch of them and then see what happens. If we do it once, it's a learning experience. We've got a lot of them to experiment with. So,
yeah, I mean, especially if we were like, hey, you remember that thing we were talking about starting a bunch of them? Like the Gwei is particularly cheap right now. Instead of spending $3 per, like I think is what it is right now, or around there. That right now we can do it for $1 per and get 3 times as many of them processed through for the next 24 hours. And since we're the ones that are starting the 24-hour counters, we know when they're going to end, so we can make sure we're up and ready to go when they're coming to the end, and then we can actually bid on them. but that's only going to incentivize the people who actually have Hedron to bid. And I have reason to speculate without knowing 100% that there's not very many people that actually have much liquid Hedron that they're willing to spend on anything, whether there's a discount or not.
I'm just glad I went with my gut and I've been sticking with my game plan. I didn't write it down, but I did mentally. And no, just what I've got staked and what I've got set aside, I've been leaving it and then only bidding with the stuff that I had bought in more recently. So that way I kind of keep myself limited to stuff. But no, I know what you're saying. I'm running low on what I could bid with, so it's getting real tempting to unstake and start bidding, but I'm being patient, just gonna wait because I know as this plays on and more people burn through it, it should get easier to get some deals.
Hey, executioner, up at looking at hexmodel.com, Icosa ceiling is 1.16258. I don't know how up to date that is, but Hedron ceiling is 405099.
Nice. Yeah, I trust this site to have up-to-date information just by a simple load, reload, refresh.
Can you imagine when we hit that Hedron ceiling? What that's gonna do to the whole economy?
Dude. Yeah, so you say it's funny that you tell me that the ceiling price is $1.16, and the first thing I think of is, oh shit, Hex must be having a green candle going up. I go look at it, and sure as shit, 4%. I mean, it's not much. It's just a baby thing happening, but still, upward progress is good.
Just from Richard speaking yesterday in front of so many wrecked individuals or individuals that want to know where is DeFi going, where centralized exchange is going, and what did he get? 10,000 new Twitter followers. I'm sure he's got more than that, but he convinced some people whether they liked his personality. They knew he was speaking truth.
Yeah. I was actually listening to a little bit of it before I started talking to you in the chat. It's kind of funny. I feel like I even overwhelm myself. It's like I'll have the TV on. I don't even watch television, but I have it on just like randomly playing some stuff. And then I've got like a couple of screens with some charts on it. And then I have my phone open with the YouTube of the Twitter thing on there with Richard Hart on it. And then I have you guys here, and I have more charts and screens for like the bidding stuff on a whole different computer that I'm dealing with all together. And you'd think I'd get overwhelmed, but while I'm talking to you guys and all this other stuff, but I really don't. It's like a space station over here.
I'm so glad you make me feel normal.
It's like to be on top of things.
Oh, it's funny. My grandfather passed away a couple of years ago, so my grandma moved in with me, and it's like she's half deaf, so she has the TV up at like 80. So I'm in the other room down the hallway, and I can still hear it blaring loud. And it's like between what she has on TV and what I've got going on the computer, and then what I have plugged in with Telegram in my earphones, it's like it's chaos. But yeah, for somehow I love it. I don't know why.
Oh, it's funny. You know what's funny is like I have like all the space in my house, like a full living room, the big TV and the whole 9 yards and all the shit. But I spend like 90% of my time, my waking hours, in my office instead, where I have like all the amenities of all the stuff from the rest of the house that all the rooms kind of have, all in one man cave space also. So it's like, why do we even have all this other stuff, really? I think a lot of the times I'm over here like dusting and like cleaning the house and like, just vacuuming. And it's like, how does this shit get dirty? Like, I'm never even fucking here in this space. Like, Jesus.
No, I've got my lazy boy if I feel like laying back. If not, I've got my desk to chill at, and having the computer, the TV, PlayStation, everything all in one room. Yeah, I don't need to leave much, except every once in a while when I gotta go work and make some money. But that's becoming more few and far between, especially with these payouts.
Dude, you're not even kidding. Like, I think I heard somebody earlier was like, I didn't expect this. Like, who expected this to like be like this? And someone was like, nobody. And I was like, well, we were.
I was doing math, and we were all looking at, okay, this is exactly how much has got burned. Okay, if you take that much, you can figure it out too. But it was still hard to believe until you actually see it show up and pop up on the screen at 4. Well, for me, I'm in Pacific time, so 4 p.m. I refreshed my screen and it popped up. I was shocked, man.
Yeah, you're like, I'm fucking glitched. What happened?
This is Icosa and Hedron's the first thing I've poured my heart and love and soul and actually gone out and worked extra jobs and hustled my ass off for, because I believed it and really felt something for it. And to see it come to fruition yesterday and actually start paying off, and you know, I've got 3/4 of every dollar I've put in is paid off. I mean, I'm a day or two away of being I'm playing on the house's money now, man. And it's a good feeling. I've never had this with anything else or any other project and Hedron's been a lot of firsts for me. It's like, I bought that first low at 6 zeros and a 7, and to get a 10x on something, Hedron's my first 10x. And I didn't sell a penny of it. I watched it go back down, and I bought a whole bunch more. And it's been a great learning experience. I've learned what the chart does. I've learned so much from you and everybody else in here that the first time I ever got a MetaMask or into DeFi or anything was in February. And we're not that far away from there. And compared to a lot of people in the space, I feel intelligent, and it's because of you and Blue Bum and so many different people in this community, Jawa and all these other people, that I've learned little pieces and bits of their strategy and their knowledge and just soaked it up like a sponge. And literally within half a year of dedication and time, I've changed what my outlook on life, what I think is possible for my future, what I've never invested in my life before. And now I can't think of doing anything else with any other dollar that I make besides invest, because I see the potential and see where it's going. And I've learned the right way to do this stuff. And it's thanks to people like you and other people in this community.
Hey, friends, I have a question.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, so a month or so ago, I staked Icosa and Hedron and made myself a few Wattses also. And now I'd like to participate in the auction without bringing in any outside capital. My Hedron stake is up, and right now it's just riding and collecting yield. So what I'm wondering is it practical to unstake my Hedron at this point? And how do I access the yield?
Well, if you do unstake it, it'll give you all your liquid Hedron back into your wallet again with your yield in the form of Icosa. If you don't have Icosa in your MetaMask, when you're on the Icosa page, at the top of the screen where it shows the Icosa symbol, the Hedron symbol, and the HSI symbol.
Yes, I do have.
Okay, if you just click it, there you go. And it'll show at the top of that screen there how much Icosa and yield that you have in your wallet, since it's connected, and how much liquid Hedron that you have. And then you'd be able to go to the HSI auctions page and be able to participate if you wanted to with liquid Hedron that you have without adding any extra capital.
So I can't access the yield until I unstake.
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, my Icosa has 88 more days left. And then, like I said, my Hedron is available. Is there any advantage to just leaving it staked?
Yeah, because your staked points that you, when you originally started your stake, was previous to 2 like 1,000 hex share rate jumps. So if you were to unstake it and restake it, you may lose the staking point value when you restake it. But if the yield that you have suffices for you to take the Icosa and then go compound it into your Icosa pool, I guess that's only relevant because you said you have 80 days left on it. That's only relevant if that 80 days means something to you. If the minimum staking length on the Icosa pool stake doesn't mean anything to you, then the compound might actually give you more yield in the end result, because there's a lot of people that are coming into the Icosa pool because of all the auction stuff that's happening. That might be a diluting like factor of the yield that you're currently getting that you might want to take into consideration, maybe that you wouldn't even notice right now because the yields are so high because of all the burning stuff that's happening. So I do know that with the essays, additional inject seed liquidity function that they did of the 750 billion Hedron for the rest of the year, increased your staking rewards by 20%. So if your rewards before were at a 1.0 for whatever that was, then the next day it would have been like, okay, so if the amount that you had staked rewards you 1 Icosa a day, then the next day you would have noticed that you would have had 1.2 instead.
Okay.
And that's every day. Every day that increases now for the rest of the year. But you wouldn't have noticed that because like we just burned 1.6 trillion and the payout yesterday was fucking insane. So any data that you're collecting just got fucked, right? So you don't even know what the baseline is now at this point. So I don't know how to answer your question exactly, but it will be relevant on like how you see those 80 days and whether you do find it the potential in compounding the yield that you currently have in your Hedron stake into that one, resetting the minimum on it, get over the past that you're going to restart your time over again from that time and just increase your yield altogether for this period of time that's happening. Oh, and by the way, the buyback function is being used and there will be another 90-day cycle that'll start again after this one goes. So you might want to put that into your plan too on your minimum and be like, well, fuck, I'll just take advantage of this Icosa pool longer. And then the Hedron pool, I might need to plan on that. I want some more of it later. So pay attention to that now too, right? Or if you just kind of want to see how these auctions are playing out for now, and you just want to kind of get the yield and you want to be like, well, you know, maybe they'll become even better deals happening. And let me just see how this auction thing rides out for a couple more days. And then maybe I'll end my stake. And then participate, make some good deals. Then I'll increase my Icosa pool and then restake any of the Hedron that I didn't burn, you know, in winning these auctions, because auctions at like a 30 to 50% discount depending on sometimes of the night. So
and how do you see that? I hear you talking about ceiling prices. How do you find out if an auction is a good deal?
Okay, so in the auctions, the ceiling price really irrelevant, but so the beginning of the auctions for the minimum bid for them would be the borrowable amount of Hedron that was in the HSI. So if you borrowed 1 T share off of 1 T share HSI, which is like 8,000 some odd hex, right now,
Yeah.
then you would get 5,555,000 Hedron if you borrowed it. So that's the minimum bid, right? Because it isn't borrowing any more than what the borrowable amount is for the 1 T share anyway. So when you use the buyback function, it's only going to really want the minimum bid of the 5,555,000 for that 1 T share anyway. So that's what the bid will start at. Now we both know that there's a big difference here. That 8,000 hex is worth one amount, and 5,555,000 Hedron is worth a totally different amount. One is worth about $280, and the other one's worth about $24, right? So that's
Yes.
telling you that you can take $24 and potentially win 215x that in value in the HSI. So that's incredibly intriguing to know that you can do that. And then you have the option to either ride it out and hold on to it and extract the yield at the end with those HSIs that you won at a particularly high discount, right? Because like I said, it's already 15x below the price at the initial starting bid. And people are like, I find that a good, like the competition will go up to at least 50%, and then people will start tapering off, or at 60%, they'll start tapering off. So that means that the people that are bidding are actually trying to force the prices down instead of the competition to go up, because there's just less competition right now. So I don't really know how to answer your questions exactly, but we'll leave you with the understanding of how the ecosystem is sitting right now and how advantageous it may be to wait and how it might be advantageous to strike now. But I don't know the exact answer, which one's better or not.
Right. Do you know of any good YouTubers that have gone through this bidding process where I could actually watch it and get a feel? I'm looking at the list of stakes right now on auction, and just don't not really connecting. I'd like to see someone run through this.
What do you want to know, bud? So we can go through this together if you want. So the first, when you go to, I'm assuming that you're at app.icosa.pro right now, and you're on the
Yes.
HSI auctions tab. And on the first list that you see is a bunch of ones that probably say now under the available tab, right? And you see a fuck
Yeah,
ton
and
of
like one hex, 2,000
Yep.
hex.
Yep.
Mhm.
And those are ones that haven't started yet. Obviously, you see why the 1 hex ones haven't started yet. Nobody gives a shit about those ones.
Right.
Anyway, so those ones haven't started their 24-hour counters yet. When each individual one, you see the actions tab on the side where it says, when you click on it, it
Yes.
says start auction. When each individual one has that function started as start auction, which does cost money to do, is
Mhm.
it starts its own individual 24-hour counter on there. Now that we understand that that's pretty much the basis of that whole list that's up there, that they're just waiting to have action on them to start the 24-hour bids, meaning they
Okay.
won't for that whole the whole 24 hours. There probably won't be a whole lot of bidding on them until like the last few hours, and then that's it. So what you get to see here underneath that page is where you see under auction end a bunch of things that say lost on them, right?
Yes.
So what that means is that auction is over, and the person has not went to the actions tab that's next to that says exit auction. The reason why you as an individual can click on it and exit auction is because it's a public function, so the community can go end those if you want, but not necessary. It's not necessary. It just kind of, as you can tell, if you expand this to 100, that the very first page of 100 is all finished ones that people haven't actually ended them. That means that it hasn't technically burned the Hedron yet. So what you want to do is expand that to the 100 and then go down all the way to the bottom of that page where you see the arrow at, and just click over. You only have to go one time over where you start to see the green counters, right?
One. Yes.
Yep. Now scroll up to where you'll see the green counters start to turn orange.
Yep.
And as you can see that the timers on those are within like the last hour. or so. What is it? Maybe more than that. 2
Mm-hmm.
hours, the last 2 hours. So this is where the ones that are going to be bid on and competed on. So there's not really a whole lot of them to actually pay attention to and look at, um, because they're not ready to be bid on. So uh, as you can see, there's a 10.45 T-share one that's ending in 3 minutes. Let's say that you wanted to bid on that one. Like, you can absorb all this stuff on easily, right? Can you?
Yep.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
now let's go through the actions of it. So this one has 3 minutes and 35 seconds. You click on the action tab. Let's say that you bid. You can bid 1 over. You can bid.
How far down is this one? Is it, or how much time does it have on it that you're talking about? I'm not seeing it.
Okay, from the bottom of the list, just scroll up to the very top one that's still orange.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's at like 3 minutes and 13
Yes.
seconds. Yep.
All right, I'm there.
Okay. So if you were to say that you were going to bid on it and you click on bid, that you're going to notice that there's where it says bid amount. If you click on that next to it off to the right, it says max Hedron. Do not click that button. Okay.
Okay.
Because that does not mean max bid, right? It's not going to go to make sure that you're overbidding somebody by any amount.
Oh, that means bid all your Hedron.
That's right.
No matter what. Okay.
Yep. So it says what the current bid is above. You could copy paste it into it, right? What from the main page, just copy the numbers that are there. And then when you hit actions and go to bid, paste it into the bid amount from the copy that you just did, and then change the last few numbers, or change the actual bid to something that makes more sense to try to win it, I guess. And then submit the bid. You will have to pay gas for that as well. And then when that is done, and when you want to be done, it's going to say, let's say you won it, right? It's not going to say lost on that one. The reason why it says lost for you on the other ones is because simply enough, you didn't win. But the ones that you win, it'll be green. It'll say win. And then when you hit the actions tab, it's going to tell you to exit the auction. There's going to be like a process that happens when you exit the auction. You gotta index the list of auctions that are there first, and then it'll allow for you to be able to exit the auction. Sometimes other people are indexing the same list and they get done before you, so it resets your list, and then it gets confusing. Like, why does it keep resetting over and over and over and over again? And people don't realize that it's just because other people are completing the function before them, and it just means you need to wait longer and participate, and just wait. It'll happen. It will go through eventually, as long as you keep trucking, right? Other people are doing the same thing as you are, and it seems frustrating, but it's just the way that it is. It doesn't want to have 10, 15, 100 auctions being entered in to the timers and leaving the timers at any one time. It's very structured. It'll only allow one at a time, in and out. One at a time out, no matter what you're doing, and one at a time in. They can have technically 2 come in. One coming in as the same time that's one's coming out, but we don't have enough people actually starting them and bringing them in. So
okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
The bringing them in does the same thing. When you hit actions to start an auction, it'll also do an indexing type of situation also. But there's a hell of a lot more in that list, so it might actually take longer. Obviously, that's causing this backup because the starting auction takes longer, and then you got to wait 24 hours to be able to bid on it in the first place. And since there's this giant list of shit that's there, you may not find it anyway, and somebody might overbid you when the timer comes down to, like, as you notice that where we were in the orange ones up there where it had 3 minutes on it, that there's like a lot of them that are counting down at the same time on these timers. And some of them might have competitions on them, so they get an extra 5 minutes added, so they get kind of left up higher in the lost category, where like two or four people are having this bidding war, and they're not paying attention to these ones with the counters going down to just go nab it from somebody that had started the timer and wasn't paying any attention. And I've noticed like there's great opportunities to go do that shit the last 2 days. So yeah.
Are you guys seeing a sweet spot on value? So, for example, one hex is obviously not it. About where is it okay to start looking at these?
Well, like it depends on what you want. Like it seems like a lot of people really like anything that's 1 T share all the
Okay.
way up to like 60 T shares.
Mhm.
That if you can get a 30 to 50% discount on them, that's what they're going for. The ones that are like 1 T share are almost always like 40 to 50% off. Like people aren't
Gotcha.
really going any higher than that.
Okay.
So they're good deals, man. There's some good deals coming through. And not having poly involved anymore, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to be able to squeak some stuff through. But we do need to have some people going and starting them too, to continue this process going. Otherwise, all these timers will come to an end, and we won't have any. We'll just have to have like an initiative to go through and start a bunch of them, and then we'll all have to wait another 24 hours, and we'll all have to not get yield for a whole day because we just like didn't find it incentivizing enough to get thousands of dollars minted in your wallet a day. I don't know. I don't get it. I said thousands of dollars. I meant thousands of Icosa. Just happens to be that Icosa is about $1
happens to be the current.
I know. I know.
So that's what's keeping the Hedron price up. People are buying fresh Hedron to come in and bid.
Well, yeah, because there isn't any. Like, there's none left. There's no liquid left. It's all staked. All the dolphins, all the sharks, all the whales. Everybody's fucking staked for. Whales are staked for 360 days. Dolphins for 270, and the sharks, 180. Yeah, the sharks 270. The dolphins 180. So that means the dolphins have like another like 87 days or some shit that they can't even touch their Hedron. So it's all the squids, and most of the squids turned all theirs into poly. So it's like double whammy. So everyone who didn't get involved with all these things and did stake at a squid level are the ones that have the opportunity. But it seems to me like maybe too many people gave away their opportunity, and now there's this overwhelming abundance to people. Now all the people who had this overwhelming abundance burned all their Hedron too, got these incredible deals, yeah, but even they don't have any left. So now you're gonna have to start buying this shit. And there's only less than 2 trillion. There's only less than 2 trillion available on the market right now. So there's barely. We burned 1.6 of the whole, almost all the available, everything that's on any DEX that's selling Hedron right now anyway, yesterday.
Well, my hot take is I don't think we've even started to see how many people potentially are going to start buying Hedron. Like, I don't think people are going to the market yet because we're still averaging the price before the auction. Like we're looking at a potential waterfall that could happen in the next, I think, within the next auction cycle. But
and then you can't even sell it. All those people that are going to come buy all that Hedron, they're going to burn it all winning these HSIs, and then there's still no Hedron for people to go sell the price down. Even the big players with hundreds of billions of Hedron are participating, and they're burning their Hedron too for these HSIs. And even they don't have any to sell the price down anymore. Like, talk about massive potential buy pressure with no. This could be a serious issue. Like, what if you just launched the price so high and then nobody even had any of it left to do anything with it? It's just there. Like
Sorry, go ahead.
Everybody will have to like really start to value the stakes that they have, because those are the only things that can mint more Hedron, and your time waiting for more Hedron to be able to be minted. Because eventually, even the market makers won't be able to suffice with that type of burn rate if it goes like that. Like, the price of Hedron will have to go up, so that way less Hedron's even burned in the first place.
So, one more question about back to the yield, if I could. So, and maybe you answered this already. Is the yield I have so far, is it just unusable until I unstake? Is it just sitting there waiting on me?
Yep. just sitting there waiting on you. And that's the good thing is like with a hex stake, you know, it's not technically sitting there waiting on you because after the 14th day, it starts to bleed, right? So you kind of run that good accounting function or something like that. With the staking protocol, you don't have that. Like after you get to your minimum staking length on the term, like you can just let it roll and it'll just keep earning yield.
And I've reached that for my Hedron staking, and I guess I'm trying to weigh my decision on do I unstake Hedron now and use it, or do I bring in fresh powder?
Oh, that's up to you, bud. I ain't even going there.
Yep. Sure. Just trying to find the factors that.
Well, think about this. Think about it this way. You think after what you know, let's say the speculation that I'm right?
Yep.
Because the actual supply is not really 30% of it's staked, and that's 30 trillion of the whole supply. 55% of that whole 55 trillion of that whole 111 trillion that's left is the essays. Multiple other trillions is the OAs, and the rest of it's all staked. So that means that there was only a couple trillion that was available to be in the hands of people anyway. And almost all of that is in the dexes. Everybody else staked. So if you know that everyone's going to fall into this understanding that they're going to have to start buying it because they can't get anywhere, all of a sudden you go from this asset that you're like, there's so much of it, how are you going to handle all of this inflation, to where the fuck did it all go? Why is there? Because it's all staked and people aren't thinking about it, because technically that's, you know, inaccessible. Not circulating is staked. And everyone did this, didn't realize that they didn't realize it. So they're going to realize it potentially. And you have this option. Like, do I take some of the stuff that I already have and participate now where I have less, just like everybody else just did? And are you going to follow the fold and do that and not use dry powder or whatever it is to come in while the price is currently low? And imagine that you did that and then the price goes up and you have this dry powder and you're like, well, now I have to buy more expensive Hedron.
Yep.
So I'm not telling you how to make the decisions, but it could go either way. And the chances are that there's not much, there's sell pressure. So which, I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
How do you feel?
Well, thanks for the insight. I love this room. I've been lurking here for a long time, and so much great information, a lot of great thinkers in here. I appreciate you guys.
We're here to gain the advantage against every other person out there as a community. Love it. I think people kind of feel comforted in like, okay, don't tell me what to do, but what if I wanted to do this? What would happen? And then like 10 people come at you and like, well, this will happen and this, and don't forget about that. And then there's this other thing that happens, so don't forget about that. And, you know, that might not be a good idea because this other thing happens. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. And then you're like, ah, fuck, I still don't know what to do. Being involved in this ecosystem requires a good amount of knowledge gathering, but it definitely absolutely requires decisive action. That is for sure. You don't want to get paralyzed in the midst of trying to figure out what to do.
It's very next level. It's so far ahead of meme coins and even traditional crypto.
Yeah, on one platform. Like even to a point that we had a gentleman come in here and ask if this was the new Pulse Chain chat, because this is where everybody is. He's like, everybody left Pulse Chain, but they're all here. Like, is this the new place to be? And it's like, I don't know, go to app.icosa. It's hard to argue, right? Because it's like, yeah, when you go to app.icosa.pro and you're like, wait a minute, I can make hex stakes here. Wait a minute, I can see all my Hedron HSIs. Oh, wait a minute, I could be involved in this other protocol here called Icosa. Oh, wait, what's this auction thing? I can do auctions here too? Well, it definitely looks like this is the one-stop shop hub for the Hex community. maybe the Telegram is too. I don't know.
Why not?
I laughed my ass off. I was like, that's funny. I didn't really think of it like that, but sure. Why not? I wouldn't make such bold claims to be like, no, Icosa, this chat room in the Icosa chat is the new Hex community. They're like, oh, somebody lynch him now.
There's really nothing else going on right now. I've been in the Telegram community for Hex for as long as it's been going, almost 2 years now, and it does tend to migrate around, but I guess the Pulse chat pretty much imploded on itself. So this is kind of the place to be now, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed too. Like I've been publicly speaking about blockchain and teaching people about Hex and how the theory works and where the advantages are, and like staking ladders and how to have hybrid staking ladders, which most people don't still to this day don't really talk about. But after I got bored in there, because people started going de-evolving to cran eating even in the Hex chat, in my opinion, we had a nice relevant place to fall into Pulse Chain chat, and I went there and spoke publicly for a while when it was early for a few months, and then we got like the main part of the community at that time that was there all through the understanding, and then it kind of started to de-evolve into cran eating a little bit, and it was more like kind of like this chat where you have like that you can't talk about a whole lot of other things, but at least you can talk about crypto and the economics, like atmosphere and things like that. And then it dumbed down even further because a lot of people like to hang out in the Pulse Chain chat at that time, and like I left the Pulse Chain chat almost yeah, it was just before Hedron was going to be announced, maybe 4 months previous to that I started stepping away from the whole Pulse Chain thing and letting like Jesse take over more of the conversations in his liquidity and eventually liquid loan stuff. And then went full time into the Hedron thing, like managing FUD, and became an admin and all that shit. Like day one, or actually day negative 60 in Hedron. And kind of watched a lot of folks follow around in that, kind of like what you suggested, right? Kind of follow around in that pattern from Hex to Pulse Chain, and then from Pulse Chain over into Hedron. And Hedron was kind of like this, proclaimed, I guess, by a lot of people that this is where the smart people were hanging out, because the groups would fall in. Because I guess really like a lot of groups have side groups. And in those side groups all over the place, they have who they perceive as the smart people in those little side groups. And those smart people in those groups were the ones that would kind of fall into this other public group. And then with Icosa, it kind of like moved into over here too, where, I mean, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and there's 15 people, 20 people inside of a chat room out of all the chat rooms that you have on there, and you go click on Pulse Chain that has 25,000, 30,000 people inside the list on there, then you're probably going to go in there. But when you go click on that one, there's only 3 people sitting in there that aren't talking, with 30,000 plus people or more. I don't even know how many. It's been so long since I've even been in the Pulse Chain chat. I don't even know how many people. 57,000 people in there. But then you come to back then it was the Hedron chat. There'd be 50, 60 people in there at a time. Where you're going to go there, right? I even seen Pulse Chain like a month or two ago where I don't know what, something was happening. I think it's a release of information, maybe some FUD or some shit. And there was like maybe 40 people that were in there. But at the time, like the Icosa chat had like 60 people in it. And I was just kind of chuckling, like, you can definitely see where the community that pays attention, at least through the Telegram stuff, to be able to listen to these conversations, where they were all going. and they're going a little bit of everywhere. I think they just go look and see that little symbol off to the side that shows that there is a voice chat that's going on, and kind of bebop around from one to another and to another. Then eventually there's just one where you land, where you feel the most comfortable. And that just happens to be these places, these environments that we're providing. It's more provocative than it is, I guess, frictional against you in these types of environments. It's more welcoming to be able to present you a place to feel welcome than it is a place to be like, you're dumb, like get the fuck out of here, like stupid shit like this, right?
Yes, and that may just be a byproduct of a lot of users, maybe, but it's nice to not feel policed, or to have someone just jumping in saying, don't talk about this, don't talk about that. I think you can't, like they say, no man is an island, and of course that applies to crypto and all of finance as well.
Yeah, I like that saying. It applies to everything, except for if you're Elon Musk. You are the island. I'm being sarcastic, I guess. And it's like almost 11 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't sleep last night. I was up bidding all night. Again.
I'll take over from here.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, just hand me your...
It's like I'm doing you guys a favor. It's like, okay, all the Americans are awake. It's about time for them to start actually participating. So I'm going to go to bed, and then I'll let you guys not have me as a participant in competition for the Americans. And then I'll wake up after 000 UTC, and I'll be like, that's the greatest, and that's the coolest thing about it for me, I guess, even though my time schedule is all fucked up and I'm awake during the night and sleep during the day.
I mean, if you want me to bid for you, give me your keys, and I promise I won't burn your Wattses.
Oh, fuck you, bro. Don't touch my Wattses. Like, you could have said anything else. You've been like, I'll drain your Hedron, or I'll take all your ETH, or I'll do something like this. And I would have just been like, whatever. But I seriously had like a little something inside of me that turned sideways when you said something about touching my Wattses. Don't even go there. You could rape my wife, but you cannot disrespect my Wattses. And you can't rape my wife. I reject that.
Okay, I'll tell her that I can't rape her.
Well, tell her that there was an offer on the table that if you were to give me a couple of Wattses, that I might have just allowed it. Oh, I'm so glad that she lives in her own house away from me, and I don't have to get beat the hell up for that. She would not find that funny. And I'm dumb enough to say something like that too, just being sarcastic and silly or whatever. She knows.
Yeah, same thing. If my girlfriend heard somebody say, if you spoke Spanish and you told her that, then she would be like, was he serious? Like, he's probably joking.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, my woman also speaks fluent Spanish, but
oh wow.
She also speaks fluent English too, so I don't have to go through all the trouble of learning her language.
Yeah, honestly, I prefer it because Americans are I don't have to compete with any Americans because they can't talk to her. Shit. But she is learning English. So.
I have to compete with
speak Spanish if you want.
Oh, see, you got competition.
Oh, he's a Venezuelan.
And I got WhatsApp too also.
You want to give me the access to your wallet, the keys to your wallet, or do you want to give me access to your lady? I speak Spanish.
To my wife first.
That's the Venezuelan flag, right?
Do you want wife or do you want wife changing money? One is in the form of a wata, one is in the form of a woman. What do you want? Nah. You know what? If I saw my woman more like a wata that just build me more assets just for sitting there, that would be awesome. But that's just not the case. There's a hell of a lot more work that goes into that relationship than a wata. I prefer my watas almost over anything because they can't speak back. They can't do anything. Like, they're completely under my control. They are my property. Women, you can't treat them like they're your property anymore. I don't know if you guys found this out lately, guys, but there was a very long stint in time where we were winning in that category where women didn't need to worry about all this other stuff that men have been worrying about for eons, but now they have to. And now it's changed the dichotomy of how things are, and they did it to themselves. And
Yeah, I think that's mostly America and Europe. I don't think it's like that. It's not like that in Latin America. Definitely not in like Iran or Saudi Arabia. But yeah, those aren't very pleasant to live in either. Like the women aren't. The women just keep the homes clean and they take care of the kids, which is an important job, but it's different. And somebody needs to do it, and somebody else needs to make the money.
Yeah, Kevin, but in Latin America, women need to go to work because we ain't got no money.
yeah, everybody has to work now. Before, it used to be that, you could have one person in the household work and be able to supply the available needs of everybody in the household of a 4-person home, right? A mom, a dad, and 2 kids, or however your dichotomy is, but still 2 kids or whatever, and still be able to every year live off of that. And
yeah, I think that's really there's really a problem with the currency. I think because if a man could make the same wage that they made 50 years ago, then the woman wouldn't need to work. And I think the difference between Latin American women and American women is that the women will refuse to stay at home, but the Latin American women are like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll stay at home. Like,
would you agree, Kevin, that you can hide more money if you double your workforce by allowing women to have rights to vote and participate in the workforce more?
Yeah, that's definitely the reason for like the American propaganda.
Well, I grew up having match and girlfriend with Latin Americans women, but now I'm married with a Belgian woman, and I prefer European mentality for sure first than Latin American woman behavior.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, I have a Brazilian friend who's like a millionaire, and he could easily but he lives in Boston, and he only dates American women. He doesn't talk to anyone who is an American.
I'm trying to think of that kid's name. He's got nice hair too. What is his fucking name? He bebops in and out of the community every once in a while. If it's the same guy that I'm thinking that you're talking about that I'm thinking of, he is a Mexican too, isn't he?
Well, actually, my friend is a Mexican, but I don't think he's very active in the community at all. I met him like in Vegas, like 5 years ago before Hex existed.
Yeah, you're right. He's not that involved in the community, but I know that Richard Hart has called him out a couple of times on a couple of the vacations that he goes on because he takes really nice photos of stuff.
Ryan. I forget his last name.
Lopez.
Ryan something. Ryan Lopez.
Lopez. Yeah, Ryan Lopez.
No, my friend's name is Bruno. I onboarded him. I'm not sure if he has. Yeah, I don't know. I think if he was in Telegram, I would know who he is. But yeah, it's a different guy. But it's, I think it's in general true that Latino men like American women, and American men like Latino women. And if you think about it, like evolutionarily, that makes sense that we would want opposites. But I think fundamentally that Europe and America are going south very fast. So I don't know if that's like a really wise thing. Like maybe take a European woman to Latin America or something. I don't know.
There you go. They ain't poking around too much in what people in Latin America are doing. Not when they're trying to invade the freedom and liberties of the Americans and the Europeans so much right now. But as soon as they get the latch on the majority of the people like that, then it won't be too much to throw the latch down on the rest of the countries either.
Yeah, so I don't know if you
Imagine how
saw.
much money they are printing, Kevin, in there. They are printing money.
Yeah.
A lot,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Yeah, the Colombian peso, I get like 25% more than I did
Have you
like
seen
a month ago.
Venezuelan inflation? It's
Oh
13
yeah.
millions, man. If you know about math, watch it.
Yeah, I mean you guys just use the dollar there, don't you? But yeah, so this last election in Arizona, the exit polls showed that like 55% of people leaving the polls were Republican, and like 20% were independent, and then like 20% were Democrat. But somehow Democrats won literally every Senate race, every Congress race, every good governor. Right. Okay. Like how how are you gonna have a country when the elections are just rigged, like, and nobody does anything about it? At least in Brazil, yeah, they know they're like, yeah, their elections are rigged, but at least they're um like they're protesting it, and the military's like helping. I think I scared the Venezuelan guy away.
He doesn't like all your American talk.
Yeah, he's probably trying to move to America, and I'm like crushing his dream. But it's, I don't know.
It's different, Kevin. Like, to be able to have a standardized living there, it doesn't make sense when you don't have any roots, when you can just move, when you can somehow move to America, make small amounts of dollars, and then move that money back to where you came from. You're wealthy all of a sudden, right? So I mean, it's a reverse process that you have to come to the United States, make the money, and then move it back. So you might spend 5 years where every year you're spending money back to family members that are still living there without you for the whole 5 years, and then he moves back 5 years later, or says fuck it, and then tries to make a living here where it's a little bit more rough, but at least it has more opportunity that's here.
I mean, I know a few people that are from Venezuela that, yeah, they moved to the U.S. They made a lot of fucking money in Venezuela. Then they moved to the U.S. and then they moved back. But they're still like go there, like routinely. But I think it really, like, yeah, that's the best thing to do for somebody who, like, just they don't know the exact best thing to do, but it makes a lot of sense. Like, I know a lot of people who did that, who worked for my dad, and they own They went to work for my dad. They made, basic, like standard but good blue collar salary. And then while they were working and living in like an RV or like a mobile home, they were sending all their money back to Mexico and buying houses and shit. And now they have like 5 houses in Mexico. But yeah, like that's exactly what they should have done. However, if you're like 18 years old, the best thing to do would be to get on like some like chat, like face-to-face chat rooms thing like Omegle. Learn English, like perfect English, and then work on your programming skills, and work in the U.S. from where you live. Then you never have to worry about getting a visa, buying a plane ticket, and then paying rent in the U.S., which is really expensive, paying for food in the U.S., which is really expensive. You can just, and I think that's going to be like very few people are doing that right now, but I think in 10 years, almost everybody's going to be doing that, and they're going to, people who didn't do that are going to feel like shit
When a country is going to fall, a lot of people make money also. It happens in Romania a lot time ago, in Venezuela also. And I think now in Turkey, Turkey has a lot of problem also. And I think if somebody from Turkey should leave, sell everything, go to other country, make money and go back. But 10 years after, 15 years after.
Yeah, that makes sense. But there are plenty of places in Latin America that aren't failing. And if you live in like a far out suburb, like yeah, like it's almost irrelevant what country you live in, as long as there's food, water, and internet. Like the world is your oyster. You don't need to. It doesn't really matter what country you're in.
While government exists, we will have crypto, so we're good.
One thing about the good thing about Venezuelan citizenship is that you can go to China and Russia, but I guess that doesn't, like right now, like I wouldn't fucking go to China or Russia, but Americans can.
No, I don't really like Russian. Russians fucked us also, trying to make supposedly friendship, and they stole our money also. China same, stealing the resources, saying we will give you technology, but we ain't got any new technology. We ain't got nothing. We ain't got shit. I just left the country. Maybe it's 5 years ago, so never want to go back. It will never change, not even in 100 years, I think. And I don't know, man. I'm just applying for the visa, new permit that is given U.S. now. I'm outside of Venezuela, but I'm applying to the U.S. Embassy, maybe to go. They will give me permission for 2 years. I will try to make some money and make it more in crypto and see what can I do.
Yeah, I think if you're in Hex and in Icosa and all that, like it doesn't really matter what, like you could afford to live in the US and everything, but I'm just talking like like if you wanted to optimize everything in your life so that you are paying the least amount of money, making the most, or for the best stuff, paying the least amount of money for the highest quality of living, and yeah, like I really don't think the U.S.
Living on a normal life, man. I will don't want bragging. I can live happy in a wood in Alaska, man. Smoking weed all day
Yeah,
and watching
Alaska is
the
like I agree with that. Yeah, Alaska should be good. I think it's pretty cheap too.
I just want to be quiet, tranquilo.
Yeah, when I grew up in the U.S. and I'm about 35, and I think the peak of the U.S. was like 1999, right before 9/11, right before um, the dot-com bubble. After that, they cracked down on security. That you lost all your freedoms. We went to war with like 6 countries. Became super imperialistic. We elected a socialist. Um, we, we had the best president in the last 40 years, and then we impeached him like 3 times for nothing. And then we rigged the election against him. Like it's just getting worse.
Kevin,
I
I
mean,
can attest to that. I would say that was the height too. I actually had a child in 99 and one in 2000. If you look at the statistics, the number of children that were born in those 2 years, everyone felt great in America back then. I really vividly remember the time. And and because of it, many schools were built because there was such a big population boom and during that time.
yeah, I remember not worrying about other countries at all. Like I didn't even know other countries really existed. I had no interest in leaving the country. I wasn't even thinking about it. Um, yeah, and everyone pretty much got along with each other, whether they were a socialist or a communist or a libertarian or a Republican or Democrat or independent. Everyone had believed that everyone was a good person, and they all said hi to each other, and they all said goodbye, and now it's like, yeah, it's totally different now.
But there is a silver lining to all this. We have been, we've woken up to reality, and there were many things that were hidden behind the curtain that have been revealed. I have a daughter who's traveled. I've talked about her many times. She was in Aix-en-Provence for a full year last year. And she's like, Mom, you won't believe how when I see Americans travel here, it's embarrassing. They do expect everyone to speak English. And but her viewpoint of traveling overseas really opened her mind up to other people and other cultural experiences. And that American exceptionalism has been served to us on a platter and we've all believed it. But there's exceptional people all over the world. And you know, uh, I don't think she'll stay in America. She likes some different cultures and different ways of thinking and doing things, that's fine on her. But I think we are in a global society now, and with this technology and crypto, look at how many people on this chat. We have 38 other people talking or listening in, and God knows where they're all from. So we can all tap into the knowledge with each other from around the globe. So we really um, need to consider humanity versus where you're from now.
You're right. Nice talk.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why traveling give you an open mind. America is not the world, also.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's actually that's the year that the internet like became mainstream. was like 2001 or 2002 or something, and that's when we lost our we don't have any digital rights, and that's when we lost those rights, I guess. But yeah, we're getting them back, and I think actually in probably like 10, 15 years, it won't be just America that has those rights. It'll probably be like more than half of the countries in the world have those digital rights.
What are your thoughts on the success of this DeFi? Because I see that CBDCs are very much are going to be pushed upon us, and I think it's probably due to greed, really, but in control. But what do you think the success of people in these types of cryptocurrencies long term?
I missed that. Was it? Say that question again.
Like our involvement in Hex and this whole ecosystem, do you think that it's going to be successful long term?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's mathematically impossible to stop it.
Do you think there's tens of thousands of current cryptos as well? Do you think that we're going to have a reckoning where it's going to be reduced down, or do you think it's going to keep growing like this?
I think it's possible we'll have like a very like over, especially after FTX, we might have a slow year or two. But Hex might just keep going up, even though that's supposed to be slow.
Amazing Twitter space that had Richard yesterday. Get like 10,000 follows yesterday only.
What were your